icon to be the first to see the latest video.
Hello everyone, this is Anuj Sethi coming to you back again from AMS Group of Institutes with another video on how to crack a case study. So today's video is important for all the students who are appearing for the board exams, the entrance exams, the group discussions or personal interviews which will be conducted by various education institutes, as well as for all the professionals who are up for presentations or who are up for interviews for their promotions. So nowadays a lot of companies and education institutes are using case studies as a tool to check the acumen, the analytical skills and the thought process of a candidate. Now the companies use these tools in real life scenarios to check the thought process and the decision making process of a candidate. The educational institutes, on the other hand, they use hypothetical situations to check only the concepts of the students. So, without further ado, let's move to the steps. So, step number 1 is read the questions. Yes, many times a lot of people first read the paragraph, then they go back to the questions, then they go back again to the paragraph. Now, this will take a lot of time and it is not good for all the students plus the professionals who have a time constraint. So, firstly you have to read the questions being asked in the paragraph so that you will be able to concentrate only on the important points in that paragraph. Moving on to step number 2, that is read the paragraph keeping in mind the questions being asked. Many times a lot of extra information is given in these paragraphs. Now this is done only to confuse the candidates. So if you already know the questions being asked, then you will be able to come up with the answers of the paragraph while you're reading the paragraph itself. So step number 2 is read the paragraph keeping in mind the questions being asked. Now moving on to step number 3, that is underlining the keywords. Now what do I mean by keywords? Whenever you're reading the paragraph, there are some words which are important for your answer of the questions being asked. So here I would like you to take a minute and focus on the minute details and differences between the concepts. There are a lot of concepts which are very similar in nature. However, the only difference is a minute one which will differentiate the concepts. So let's take an example. How will you differentiate between formal and informal authority? So in formal authority, that is formal authority, the superior subordinate relationship is defined by the hierarchy or the official position of the candidate. However, in informal authority, the personal standing of that person in the group plus the acceptance of the authority by his peers, that defines the superior subordinate relationship. So make sure that you focus on these minute differences. Now moving on to step number 4, that is preparing a mental note of the answer. Now many times people start the answers, then when they are appearing at the end, so what they do is they forget a concept and they try to put it back in the end. So this breaks the flow of the answer and makes it look weird. So before you start, do make a mental note of the answer so that you have a proper flow, that is the introduction, the body, the conclusion, and if you want, then you can also put in an example if it is asked by the question. So there you go, these are the 4 steps which have to be followed if you want to crack a case study easily. And what are these 4 steps? Step number 1 is read the questions. Step number 2 is read the paragraph. Step 3 is underline the keywords. And step number 4 is to make sure you make a mental note of the answer so that there is a proper flow of the answer. So let's take an example. And this I will show you how to actually apply these steps. So what was step number 1? Read the questions. So we'll move directly to the questions. That is, which concept of management did Max apply in the case study? And question number 2, who will the company hold accountable for the losses? Now, you have to focus only on Max, and the company has suffered some losses, so we have to find the culprit. So, let's move on to the second step, that is reading the paragraph. Now, Max is a middle level manager at AMS Limited. So, this is important. We can underline this. Yes. He was assigned the work, this is also important, to prepare all the necessary documents and submit them for government approval. Max's daughter was getting married the next month, so this is not important. So we can leave this. Due to his busy schedule, he gave the mundane job. So he's giving the job to someone else of typing the letters and submitting it to the concerned government departments to his subordinate Ram. So he gave this job to Ram. Due to some irregularities in the paperwork submitted, the permissions were denied by the department. Due to this, the company suffered huge losses and decided to punish the person who was responsible. So we have done the 3 steps. That is, you have read the question, you have read the paragraph, and you have underlined the key words. Now let's move on to step number 4, that is making a mental note of these answers. So firstly, we'll move to the questions. What were the questions? That is, which concept of management did Max apply in the case study? Now, from here we can already see that he only gave his authority to Ram. However, he did not give his responsibility for the work to Ram. So this concept is clearly delegation. So we have found the answer. Now it's time to make a mental note of the answer. How will you do that? Simple. Since he gave only his power to his subordinate, Mr. Ram, because he was busy, this concept is delegation, because the responsibility for the job remained with Max. So let's move to the answers. The concept of management used by Max is delegation. As you can see, it's in the green. As he gave his powers to his subordinate, Mr. Ram. However, Max will still be held accountable for the job by his superiors because he did not transfer the responsibility. Now, I would like to take a moment and explain to you guys why this is not decentralization. Because in decentralization, the power as well as the responsibility is transferred to the subordinate. However, in this case, Max only transferred his authority, his powers, but not the responsibility. So let's move on to question number 2. That is, who will the company hold accountable for the losses? Now we've already discussed this. Since the responsibility stayed with Max, Max will be held responsible for the losses by the company. So here let's take a mental note of the answer. Since Max gave his authority to Ram, so Ram did the job. Although the errors were done by Ram, Max will still be held responsible by the company. Why? Because it did not transfer the responsibility. So we'll make this answer a bit lengthy one. So let's go to the answer. Although the applications were filed by Ram, who had made the error, the company will hold Max responsible for the completion of the task. When he delegated his work to Ram, he only delegated his authority. However, the responsibility of the completion of the task remained with Max. Hence, the company will find Max responsible for the losses. So wasn't it easy for you guys to crack this case study by following these steps? Yes, so if you follow these 4 steps, you will be able to crack any case study, any given case study in the least amount of time. So this is it from our side. And guys, if you found this video to be useful, then do give it a thumbs up, and please post this link or forward this link to your fellow students or the professionals, whoever they may be, because this is a free link. Plus, if you want us to make another video on any other concept, then do use the comment section below. So this is it from our side, and as always, happy learning.